So I got one more story for you. And this one, I wrote this one down. This is something a little different. There's a guy, handsome, smart. He's got a beautiful family. He's got a wife that loves him. He's got the most wonderful 2 little girls. From the outside, he has pretty much everything going on for him. He's bald. Other than the fact that he's bald, he's got pretty much everything going for him. And then one day, it all goes wrong. His basement floods, and he's presented with an issue. Does he confront the issue head on, or does he look up to the heavens and blame God? He knows what he's supposed to do, which is the most frustrating thing. He's read the literature, yet this guy can't seem to stop making the wrong decisions. He falls back into bad habits. He starts eating like crap to feel good. More treasures on earth. And when that works, because it does make him feel good, he continues to do it. Eventually, he ends up putting on 10 to 12 pounds that he had just literally lost days before. His gym routine ends. He stops going to the gym. He snaps at his wife too quickly. And he becomes a broken light, a broken building. Thankfully, he knows of this fella, let's just call him Jesus Christ. And he begins to read the Bible a little bit more. He prays more, and he struggles to pray. He gets on his knees a couple weeks ago in front of nobody, just himself and God. And he wonders why he's even praying. He's like, why would he even do this? It doesn't even work. It didn't help him out a few months ago. It's not going to help him out now. But he does it. He gets on his knees and he just says, help, please. And then something kind of amazing starts to happen. He starts to get better. He starts to go to the gym again. He starts to eat healthier. He starts to treat his wife the way that she deserves to be treated, like an angel. And slowly but surely, he makes his way, starting to carry that cross again. The final hurdle is filming a podcast that tells others to put their faith in God. And when he felt like he couldn't do that a few months ago. And it's me, obviously. If you didn't get it, it's me. It's not a news story. I'm not the first person to have happened to me what had happened to me. I just failed, and it was just weird. Like, I was just mad. I was mad at God, like, all the time. Like, what the hell? Come on, dude. Like, and you do these things. You don't do these things for certain reasons. Like, you don't give to charity. Like, you don't give to charity for others. But then you start throwing that back into God's face, and you go, I give all this money to charity, and I donate all this stuff to charity, and I film a podcast about you. And you throw that back in his face, and you feel like a dumbass for doing all that stuff. And it's crazy. It's the things that can happen to you I don't know. It was frustrating. It was a bad time in my life. And I'm a very happy person. That's the thing, is like, my faith in Jesus Christ never wavered. It felt like my faith in God wavered, which doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it makes sense, but I think that I'm not through the storm. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, that's way past me. It's not. I'm just trying to do a little bit better each and every day. And here I am trying to do a little bit better. That story, though, is, if it sounds made up, or it sounds like you've heard it before, it's because actually that will lead us into the quote of the day, which is from Job chapter 38, verses 1 through 5. This is after, if you don't know the story of Job, he more or less, he's a fantastic Christian. He's like a model citizen. He loves God. He does all this stuff for God. And one day Satan says, let me tempt him, basically. Let me test him. And God allows it to happen. And eventually, his faith in God never wavers, but he gets frustrated. He gets angry. He starts to question, like, why did you allow these boils to be put on me? Why did you kill my kids? Where are my crops? Where's all this bad stuff has happened to me? Where were you? And then God speaks to him. Job chapter 38, starting at verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm, and he said, who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? And That is like the most humbling verse in the entire Bible to me. The Old Testament and the New Testament are definitely different. It's a different vibe. And the Old Testament is like, I obviously my favorite chapter is John. I mean, of course, but the Old Testament is incredible. It's a very beautiful read, and some of the Psalm 69 is like my favorite. It's fantastic, obviously. But this line, the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm and said, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge?" At the end of the day, the story of Job is about a man whose faith was kind of tested, and he got frustrated and he fired back at God, but his faith never wavered. And that's the important thing to remember here, is that to have unwavering faith. I think Jameis Winston just said that, to have unwavering faith in the Lord. And that's the important thing. And for me, it's like the line of, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge?" has hit me like a ton of bricks. Because I started off positive. You saw podcasts like 19 or 20, I was talking about it, and I kept talking about it, and I was like trying to convince myself that everything's okay. But then I grew angry, and I grew frustrated, and I grew mad. And then I said, I'm not doing this podcast. I need a break. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I got to a point where I'm like, I'm a decent guy. Why does this stupid shit keep happening to me? You go through every little thing in your life that's wrong, that's happened to you, that's bad. And you just complain and complain and complain. And the more stuff you complain about, the more stuff there is to complain about. And eventually you start to live a bad life, and a really unfulfilling life, and a life that's kind of, in a way, almost not worth living because of how hard you're being on yourself, and how you're acting like a loser and not a winner ultimately. And you're not willing to pick up your cross, because I didn't want to pick up my cross. It felt unfair. Like, I feel like I was carrying my cross. Why did you make it heavier? And it's ultimately to teach you to carry a heavier cross, because you're going to be called to carry a much heavier one in the future, and you need to be prepared. And that's sort of how I've been trying to look at it. And it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, it's easy. You just put your faith in God and it's so easy. Everything's so easy." I think Jesus says pretty clearly in Mark, he says, this is John. He says, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first." And then at the end of John, I think it's 14, he says, "In this world you have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." So just put your faith in him, even if you just don't want to sometimes, because you feel like you were doing that, and why get tested? I thought I was doing everything right. And it's stupid. It's arrogant. And I know it's arrogant of me to think like that, but I was, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I know other people feel like this. So I feel like I'm called to share what happened to me.